Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're well and all okay. So today we pay our respects to 5 women that have become almost part of something that is legendary and almost a folklore and almost doesn't seem real in a way, but it was very real. It was very horrific, very tragic, and yeah, scary really. So I'm talking about the Whitechapel murders, which was the official name that was given to it at the time, but it's become to be more commonly known as the Jack the Ripper murders. So we know that Jack the Ripper was never caught. There is so many theories and opinions online where people have looked into it. Some say that there were 11 murders, some say that there were 9, some say that we'll never know because some bodies were never found. But it's generally believed that the 5 we look at today were all murdered by the one person, Jack the Ripper, because they were all murdered within, as I said, a short time frame and quite a close proximity of each other. So we look at 2 of them have actually got graves with headstones, which was really interesting to see, and the other 3 have got memorial plaques. So I think over time their graves have been possibly repurposed, or they were buried in public graves, but their memorial plaques are within the area of where they were buried, so it was still really interesting to see. We also visit the locations of where they were found in the Whitechapel area. So again, it never is straightforward, but that wasn't as simple as, because the area has been redeveloped constantly, and even in the last 10-15 years, if you do a little bit of research online, even the photos and the details that are on there, from then it's been redeveloped again. But we have a look. It is really interesting. I found it really interesting. I hope you guys do as well. As always, if you could like the videos, leave your comments down below, and if you've been on the Jack the Ripper tours, which I haven't, but I'm going to try and get one sorted, let me know. Or if you've got any other info, please let me know in the comments below, guys. Ann Nichols was born on the 26th of August 1845 and was the first of the Canonical victims. She married at 18 in the City of London and had 5 children. She separated from her husband in 1880. Over the next few years, Mary acquired a long police record, although mostly minor offences such as drunkenness, disorderly conduct and prostitution. Legally, she was still being supported by her ex-husband until we found out she was working as a prostitute. Mary spent the next few years living off charitable handouts and the little money she earned from prostitution. On the 30th of August at around 11 PM, she was seen walking along Whitechapel Road. After visiting a public house and having several drinks, she returned to her lodgings. She was asked for payment to cover the evening's rent, but as she had no money, she was then asked to leave. Mary was last seen by a friend walking around at 2:30 AM and she appeared drunk. At 3:40 AM her body was discovered in front of a gated stable in Bucks Row. Amongst her injuries, her throat had been so severely cut that her head had almost been severed from her body. She was identified in the morgue by her father and her older son. The funeral took place in great secrecy on the 6th of September 1888 to try and deter morbid sightseers. And the memorial plaque is just up here on the right, in between these 2 trees. City of London Cemetery, Ann Nichols, Died 31st of August 1888. Heritage Trail. So people come here to have a look, and they also leave money on her plaque. And the grounds are absolutely beautiful. So we are on Durwood Street, which was originally Bucks Row, which is where Ann Nichols was found. Obviously, just off Whitechapel Road, it's being redeveloped, but this is the road or the area where her body would have been found. So it would have been around here. Potentially. Which is a lot like in the area. It's changed a hell of a lot. And you've got Whitechapel Road just up there, the high street. Annie Chapman was born on the 25th of September 1840 and was the second of the Canonical victims. Annie's childhood revolved around her father's military career, the family eventually settling and he got a job as a valet. She developed a weakness for alcohol at a very young age. On the 1st of May 1869 she married a gentleman called John Chapman. Together they lived in various West London locations and they had 3 children. The years that followed were very difficult for the family, with one of their children tragically passing away and another being placed into permanent care. The challenges they faced as a family caused both of them to start drinking heavily, and over time they mutually separated. Her partner John retained custody of their daughter, but he continued to provide financial weekly payments to Annie until he tragically passed away several years later. On the 8th of September, in the early hour, he was seen talking with a man on Hanbury Street. At 6 a.m, her mutilated body was discovered by an elderly resident. Her body was lying on the ground near the doorway to the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. Her throat had been cut from left to right and parts of her had been disemboweled. Although previous murders connected to the Whitechapel murders received a lot of media attention, Annie's murder caused a state of panic in the East End and put a lot of pressure on the police. Her funeral was not publicised, with no mourning coaches or members of the public. Annie Chapman was buried on the 14th of September 1888 at the request of her family. She was laid to rest in a communal grave. So the memorial plaque for Annie Chapman It's just up here on the left, on this bank a little bit further up where we can see the flowers. And she was the second victim out of the 5. And it is just here. This plaque is dedicated to the memory of Annie Chapman, died 8th of September 1888, a victim of the infamous Jack the Ripper. Her remains are buried within this area. And people have left coins here again. She was laid to rest in this area. So this is Hanbury Street, which is where Annie Chapman's body was discovered. So it would have been down this road somewhere. Elizabeth was born on the 27th of November 1843 and grew up in Sweden, where she remained until her early 20s. She moved to London around 1866 and married a gentleman called John Stride on the 7th of March 1869. He was 22 years her senior and they lived in the Poplar area. After several years they separated, although they continued to live together. Elizabeth supplemented her income by sewing and house clearing, as well as prostitution. On the 29th of September, throughout the night, she was seen talking to various men. At around 1 a.m. on Sunday, the 30th of September, her body was discovered. Elizabeth was buried on the 6th of October and her funeral was attended by a small number of mourners. So I think she was laid to rest just up this path on the left. And it is this one here with the flowers. Elizabeth Stride, 1843, 1888. And it almost feels a little bit strange, to be fair. From all those years ago. The third victim of Jack the Ripper. On Henrique Street, which is where Elizabeth Stride's body was found. And back then her body was found in a place called Duffield's Yard, and this road was originally called Burner Street. So it would have been along here somewhere that her body was found. So again, very different to how it was. But it would have been here somewhere. Catherine Eddowes was born on the 14th of April 1842 and was the fourth of the canonical victims. Catherine was murdered within an hour of Elizabeth Stride. She was born in Wolverhampton and the family moved to London. Both her parents passed away by the time she was 15, resulting in her and her siblings being admitted into orphanages. After a few years and when she grew up, she moved back to Birmingham for a while, where she got married and had 2 children. She moved with her family back to London and she had a 3rd child. Catherine started to drink heavily, which created problems with their relationship. Sometimes things would get violent. Catherine left her husband and kids and by the following year was living with a new partner. On the 29th of September, she was taken to Bishopsgate Police Station for being drunk and she was detained until she was sober enough to leave. She was released at 1 a.m. the following morning. At 1:44 a.m. her body was found by a police officer on his beat at Mitre Square. Her funeral took place on the 8th of October 1888. She was laid to rest in an unmarked grave. An estimated 500 people were present when her coffin arrived. So the memorial plaque for Catherine Eddowes is just up here on the left, past this sign that we can see, or this map. City of London Cemetery, Catherine Eddowes, died 30th of September 1888, Heritage Trail. And once again people have left money on the plaque. And originally both Ann Nichols and Catherine Eddowes were buried in this area, but over the years the area has been transformed into a memorial garden. But that's why both plaques are sort of nearby, because this is where they were originally buried. So that is Mitre Square, which is where Catherine Eddowes was found. And there is a plaque just here on the right in her honour. In the early hours, 30th of September 88, the body of Catherine Eddowes, victim of the notorious Whitechapel murders, more commonly known as Jack the Ripper, was discovered in Mitre Square. Mary Jane Kelly was born in 1863 and is believed to be the final victim out of the Canonical 5. She was also the only victim that was murdered inside the room she rented, allowing her killer a lot more time with her. Mary and her family originated from Ireland, and her family were quite well to do. She supported herself by working as a prostitute, and in 1888 Mary started living with a gentleman named Joseph Bennett, who worked at Billingsgate Market. Together they lived on Brick Lane and then relocated to Miller's Court on Dorset Street. As time passed and things became difficult, Mary and Joseph separated and he moved out. Throughout the evening on the 9th of November, Mary was seen by several people who knew her, and in the early hours she was seen going into Miller's Court with a man, but nothing seemed suspicious. On the morning of the 9th of November 1888, the landlord sent his assistant to collect rent that was owed to him. There was no answer on the door, and he then looked through a broken window and saw her body lying on the bed. News of another victim spread quickly, and large crowds started to gather at each end of the street. Her former partner Joseph was only barely able to identify her. Mary Jane Kelly's funeral took place on Monday the 19th of November, and large crowds of several thousand people watched the funeral go by on the streets. I believe she's just laid to rest here, just on the left. And that is the final resting place of Marie Jeanette Kelly, the last, well, supposedly the last victim of Jack the Ripper. In loving memory of Marie Jeanette Kelly, none but the lovely hearts can know my sadness. Love lives forever. So we are on White Row, and this is where Dorset Street, Miller's Court was, where Mary Jane Kelly was killed in her lodgings. So it was either behind this building on the left or on the right here. But that building up there that we can see in the background is used in quite a lot of references online. So it would have been on this block here. That Dorset Street was. And this is Crispin Street. So it would have either been here or this area where the lodgings were. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I found it really interesting looking into all the information and the bits and pieces. I think it will be something that will always be one of those mysteries, because he was never caught and it wasn't, the crimes or the murders weren't really solved, and it will always be something that's open to debate. So yeah, definitely interesting. But I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and we will see you on the next one. See you soon.